Hello, and welcome to our next episode of Lead, Laugh, Love. To everybody just joining us, we have got a new experimental show going on here that you guys gave the green light, and we are officially rocking and rolling with this show. And what we've got is an improv talk show on life, love, and leadership. We are tapping into all of the lessons that we wish we were taught in school. And essentially what we're doing is all of this unscripted. A lot of the content out there is very plain and boring, but what we've got today is an improv show that I'm going to drop the host of the show, Dr. Brian Harman, behind the scenes, letting you know you are the host of the show. And what we are talking about today is how great leaders sell without selling. We want to hear a results-based conversation here. And without further ado, we're going to bring in our guests. Again, Dr. Brian Harman, you are going to be our host of this show right after this intro.
What you gonna do?
I still don't believe that that Trav did that all on his own. How good is that intro? It makes us look real professional.
I know. I love it. I feel so good. And just to see John's face.
Nice new office, Brian. I like it.
It's coming together. So I've got some paintings over here that are not hung up. I actually painted this myself based on a picture I took with my wife. Yep.
Can you actually
you can paint? You can paint on top of all your other skills?
I know. It's
what other skills? Sorry, what other skills,
JP? I don't know if you guys knew this, but I'm actually a drummer.
Yeah, I knew that. I did know that.
Yeah.
You should end all your videos with like the dunts. Yeah. Like every time you do a joke, like dunts.
I'll think
awesome.
that
I would
one
love
through.
that.
Yeah,
I would love that one.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Well, hey guys, welcome. I'm happy to be hosting. Ravi, thanks for leading the way last week with your example of how to host this improv show. Travis, could you tell us what's the topic again for today?
How to sell without selling as a leader. That was it.
How great leaders sell without selling. So we want results.
See?
Okay, great. Beautiful. Okay, I'm ready. I got some ideas. Here's what we're going to talk about. And right off the bat, I'm going to talk to John with a question here. So, John, I am a client of yours. You're my coach, my LinkedIn guru coach. And so I want to ask you, how do you choose the right clients? How do you work with the right people? Because if we're going to talk about how great leaders do selling, I think that's one of the essential components is you have to sort of qualify those leads into people that you should be working for to begin with. So what do you think about that?
That is so challenging for me because like if you look at my dating life, I would always pick the chick that needed a ton of work, like just whether it's like emotional or whatever the case may be. Like I would love the idea of taking like a fixer upper, even with some of the houses I've purchased, there's something about like romanticizing the process of taking somebody that might, because it goes a lot off of my own life, like I'm sure if somebody saw me when I was first starting out, they wouldn't have thought, okay, this is the end game. This is where you're going to get. So a lot of times I get stuck in this mindset, this romantic mindset where I want to take somebody that is a horrible fit and see like what we can excavate, what we can bring out of them. But, a lot of this, especially like as you start to scale, you start to recognize like as you want to develop a big company, you can't necessarily take on too many of those. You can take on a few, like if you see a spark, if you see a light. But I think that's just, it's one of the things that it's just like recognizing, is this process scalable? And is it more me being romantic? Is it more feeding my ego? Or is it feeding the company, feeding the other employees, feeding the bigger picture? So I think a lot of it has been for me is just recognizing that, it's a lot easier to take a motivated person that already displays some of the characteristics, already has created some video content, for my context, and be able to maximize that, as opposed to trying to be too romantic and taking somebody that really doesn't have the traits. Maybe they have a lot of ambition or passion, but they don't necessarily have the skill set to make it work, in a scalable way.
Yeah. And what we're talking about today too is how great leaders do their sales. For me, as a leadership coach, I want to bring the whole principle of my work into the sales process as well. And what I mean by that is, am I serving them? Am I serving the right people? And if I have some clients where I've struggled with, I try to learn from that and say, okay, now how do I readjust my strategy so that I am serving the right people? But I too, especially when you're growing a business, it's hard to say no to people who want to work with you. So I have another client, another question. This one's for Ravi.
Mm-hmm.
How do you create this sort of target client avatar or profile? Like, how specific do we need to get? Like, how do we even decide who we should be serving?
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so how do you create an ICP or a perfect client avatar? For me, the way I like to look at it and think about it is, think of them as an actual individual. Like, for example, where do they live? How old are they? What sex are they? What race are they? Where do they enjoy hanging out online, offline? What is their family life like? Are they married? Are they single? Are they in a relationship? Are they whatever they're doing? So think about them as an actual individual. And this assumes we're looking at B2C right here, right? But think of them as an actual individual, and you'll start to get a shape of your different variations of your different ICPs and what they will look like. And then you can tweak your messaging accordingly. Now, in terms of, what was your second question? How do you begin? What was your second question, Brian?
I think that was it.
One more complex than it needs to be.
Good.
Ravi, he's already ready to answer the next question.
He's got a slide deck.
Ravi's at the ready.
Listen, you don't know what's.
Yeah. What is ICP anyways?
Ideal customer profile. That's me fixing my glasses.
You gotta get some lighting going on over there, Rob.
Sorry?
You gotta get the lighting going. You're a little bit, you look like you're an informant talking, about the mafia that you were just saying.
Jesus. Right. You know what, dude? Okay, there you go. That's what you really want.
There we go. All right.
But you know what? It's late here, bro. It's 6:20. It's not like, I know you're out in Chicago and it's like midday. You just had your lunch. You just had your protein shake. That's why you got the little t-shirt on. Look at you. You just had a little workout.
I don't do protein shakes.
I don't think he's in Chicago either.
Actually, haven't had much after this. Anyways, back to the scheduled program of today.
Hold on. Wait, before we do that, ABS.
What's up?
You are from Chicago, right? You're based in Chicago.
Yeah, the suburbs of Chicago, yeah.
Wow, Brian didn't even know that, and he's meant to be your friend. Noted.
Where'd you think I was?
I mean, I didn't think you're in Chicago, the city of Chicago.
Yeah, I'm not in the city. I'm in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Compared to the country of Chicago, or?
He said he's not downtown. God, some people. Okay, let's go back to it.
Back to the program.
Alex, a question for Alex. I see the quality of your work. It's phenomenal. Similar to John's, not so much Ravi, but John. And
you can't resist.
I can't resist. And so here, let me come back to a serious note. When I started focusing on even when I just had a single client, I want them to have the breakthroughs, the transformational experience that I wanted to give to my clients. And the more I focused on the actual work instead of working on sales, that's when I started to realize they are my salespeople. So what happened is that first person I coached, he said, I want you to coach all my executives. And now my business is off the ground. So I want to ask Alex, how do you look at the quality of your work as the ultimate sales piece?
Oh, it's everything, man. It's everything. You're like, what you go through, especially being newer in business, is like, you want all the customers on the front end, right? Like BD, business development. I got to get more clients. But I went through this, and I had a moment where I just slowed down, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be the absolute best I possibly can be for the clients that I have. and let that kind of take care of a lot of it on its own. Because what does happen is, yes, your customers are your best salespeople, whether that's video testimonials, whether that's referrals, whether that's them having you on their podcast, and that opens up other opportunities. Like, you really have to take care of your people. And if you talk to anybody that I work with, like, I put my heart and soul into my customers. I give probably more time than I even should, but it just means that much to me, because you're creating more customers out of that when you create not just customers, but raving fans, people that just want to work with you because they've heard great things from people that have done work with you in the past. I think that is a super, super important point.
Cool. And I've messed that up before. So I'm curious for all of us here, if we can go around, and why don't we talk about the biggest amateur mistakes we've made as salespeople? Ravi has too many to think of. What's
I've got too many. There's loads. So I was like, I'll give you one quick story. So this was like early on in my sales career, like very early on. Like, this must have been, it was like 24 hours ago. But this must have been 7 years ago, right? 6-7 years ago, it must have been. But I decided to cold call this dude. So I had the script in front of me. I had everything ready to rock. Picked up the phone. I was like, young, overconfident, like, thought I was invincible. Anyway, hit the phone, started speaking to this guy, and he was being so nice. I was like, wow, this cold calling stuff is beautiful. It's so easy. He was actually an existing client of the business, and I didn't spend enough time looking that up inside of the CRM. And he was nice to me. And then he went silent, and he lit me up. Like, he literally lit me up to the point where I went back to my desk, tail in between my legs, walked over to my mentor. I was like, dude, I fucked it up. I don't know what I've done. I've messed something up. He's like, calm, chill, don't worry about it. It's all good. But since then, I was like, man, you've got to have your ducks in a row before you start hitting the phones. You don't just do blind calling, right? These things stick with you. Sherry says, tell us the number one thing you do to sell without selling. Brian?
I mean, now that my business is at capacity and I can't advertise.
Oh my God. That's what he just did to sell you without selling. He just gave you scarcity. He's like, listen, I'm full. I can't take on any more clients. Sherry's disgusted in you, Brian. She's not even going to comment now.
Oh, no. Good question, Sherry. I think the biggest thing that I do to sell without selling is I really do take the time to learn from my mistakes. And since we're talking about mistakes, I'll tell you one right now. And it's along the lines of what Ravi said, is about that preparation. Is when I'm reaching out to CEOs, senior vice presidents, executive directors, and I want to be their executive coach, I cannot show up to those meetings that they've taken time out of their day for. Those aren't easy meetings to get in the first place. So I need to know, what's their background? How can I help them? Do I understand their organization? Am I a good fit for their organization? Are they in the technology space? And if so, what specifically do they do? Do I go to their website, look at their culture, try to understand what might be some of this person's problems? And like Ravi said before about the ideal client profile, is you don't want to go out there and cyber stalk them to be manipulative. You want to go out there and get some background so you have an understanding of, can I help this person, and how so? So I think the way that I sell without selling is the preparation that I do sets this sort of background, this framework for how I do everything. Because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So if you always go into every business task with that in mind, then I think over time that engine starts to build up momentum, and then you're selling without selling. But in the beginning, there's no way around the prep work.
But Brian, that's an important point, right? Because if you show up prepared and you've done the research and you truly understand your client and you're handling them as somebody who, like you said, a CEO or executive, they're time poor. And also at the same time, they work and arguably behave in a different way to other people inside of the organization. So if you're stepping up and you're showing that level of respect and research at the very beginning, it breeds a level of confidence and rapport, which is way more important than, oh yeah, you've got 2 dogs, so do I. It's the fact that you've shown up having done that level of work, It's important.
Yeah, I thought you had 1 dog.
Speaking of research, like, again, this kind of like and on the subject, this goes back to like, you know, when I was like, especially like when I was like, I had a Tinder profile and I was going on dates like on Tinder, and I promise all this connects. So I would remember, like, you know, when you don't know somebody and you're like meeting for the first time, you know, like there's a lot of anxiety around like, who is this person and what are they going to like? Are they going to like me? And it's just like, it's such a stressful thing. Right. So I would totally stalk like their Instagram, their Facebook. I would Google their name and try to figure out anything that I could. I figured out their address, their phone number, you know, what their parents' names are, you know, any information that I could find online. Right. And so when I had all this data and I first met them, you know, they would say like, oh my God, my favorite concert of all time was 2001 Backstreet Boys. That was their Instagram post. And I'd be like, man, like, you know, I remember as a kid singing, you know, I Want It That Away, like at the top of my lungs or whatever the case was. And immediately they were like, oh my God, that's my favorite song. How did you know? And I was like, listen, I'm a fortune teller. I could just tell.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Birthday.
Just move on.
And I would say like, listen, you really do sound like a Pisces. And then they would light up because immediately they knew that it's like I was like a fortune teller. I was made for them, you know? So it wasn't necessarily like the aesthetic. It was more the fact of how strongly I could develop a connection with them quickly, you know? So now we have a tool. Now we have a tool that we could use to do the same thing on LinkedIn. It's Crystal Knows, and crystalknows.com. I would check it out. You know, especially if you're not familiar with these target clients, like maybe you have that dream client in mind. I've been using that tool for my sales calls, and it's insane. It's insane, like how accurate it is. Try it on yourselves. And you know, now that I've done some of these sales calls, it's just like you know, I can already tell that some of them feel like, okay, this person knows me. And even if it's not 100% accurate, it gives you like a little bit of a framework to follow. So yeah, I think that, you know, all of that stuff does make a huge difference.
So back to our biggest sales mistakes. I think, Alex, did we get to you yet?
No.
Let's hear it.
My biggest sales mistakes, definitely a lot of them were on preparation, no doubt about it. Like that's, I think we've all been burned by just showing up to a meeting, whether we were running late or doing something else, and showing up and then being completely oblivious to that person's background. I don't know. Biggest sales mistake. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I made a mistake on in the beginning was building my 5-week LinkedIn video boot camps now is like not building a community, like trying to do everything I did was just individual one-on-one type work instead of actually creating a community, whether that's free stuff through your LinkedIn group or your Facebook group, or just building a community with the people you engage with. I think for me, building that actual community and creating relationships inside of that community has been huge to overall sales.
Mm-hmm. Someone's asked us, how do you guys handle feedback and what wins have you gained from it? So feedback in the one where I got lit up, I was on the phone. This guy was the chief operations officer for a company that had a few hundred employees. And he just gave me straight talk. He said, you're coming onto this call. You don't know my company name. You didn't look at my background. You obviously, you're coming at me with these questions like, who am I? And hey, I want to get to know you. And there's no context for what this call is really about. What are the desired outcomes for this meeting? And I'm going to spend 30 minutes on the phone with you to discuss what? Just all about me and tell you about my company? Like, how's that value added time for me? And so he gave me that feedback. It was very direct. It wasn't mean. It was just exactly what I needed to hear so that I knew the next time that that's not what I was going to do. And I think feedback is always this place of from failure to growth. You have some options. If you take a failure and you don't ask for feedback, then it's just failure and you're a worthless loser. No, I'm just kidding. But if you have failure, but then you ask for feedback, now it's growth. So anytime there's failure, seek as much information as you possibly can so that you can take that forwards. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think feedback's tough to get sometimes, right? Especially when it's the constructive kind, and it's things that you don't want to hear necessarily, but it's not about what you want to hear. It's about what you need to hear. And I think that's what you have to humble yourself. You have to put your ego aside and say, look, I just need some feedback. I need to get better. I've asked for feedback so many times, especially since I made the jump from full-time job to the side hustle, which now is the full hustle. I've asked for feedback almost every single day, just because there's just times when you're lost. You don't know what you're doing. You're trying to figure it out. There's new adventures. You're taking on new work. Like, you need to constantly ask for feedback. I don't care if you've been doing it 30, 40 years or you just started doing it yesterday. Like, you have to seek the feedback, and you have to create an environment where people are okay giving you feedback, because some people are like, I want the feedback. And then it's like, yeah, but like, Ron, every time we ask you, you jump down our throats. So you've got to create the right environment for the feedback, but it's absolutely needed, because none of us have everything figured out. We're all trying to figure shit out. It's just at different stages and at different levels, but we're all still trying to find our way in the dark to a certain extent. It's just the natural state of growing and progressing as a person. The flip side of that is the person giving the feedback, you have to be okay saying, hey, it's not about this person liking me in the moment. It's about me making them a better human or a better worker or professional or content creator or whatever it is. So you have to kind of set the emotions aside and say, it's not about if I feel weird giving this feedback, like, ooh, this is awkward for me. I don't know how they're going to take it or what they're going to feel about me. It's not about that. It's about, is this going to help this person get better and progress? And if it is, then you owe it to them, if you care about them, to give them that feedback. That's how I feel about it.
Love that, Alex. That's awesome. So for me, I'm a baby bitch. Like, when it comes to like getting feedback, I'm a baby bitch. Like, I can't handle it. Like, I take it super bad, and it's just like, I'll write it down. Like, I have a reverse vision board. I take all of the negative comments that I get and I put them on my wall, and I use them obviously to figure out, okay, well, what can I do to make all of this stuff better? Right. And it's like, yeah, kind of like negative, but like that chip. Thank you. Okay, for at least one episode, I want you to change my name to that. Can we do that? Awesome. So yeah, I do take it really bad. I take it really bad. There was like a guy that did a video where he kind of like trashed my advice, and like, I probably cried for 2 hours after that. But and I even like, I legit in the comments said, "You hurt my feelings," and that was like the only comment. He didn't actually call me out, but I think he was talking about me. So. Yeah, like I will take all those comments, but also I think it's important to consider who is giving you that negative feedback. I think that's so important. If it's somebody that has never done what you have done, then to take feedback from somebody that's never been there, what is the constructive, where's the constructiveness in that? Like, if like Shay gives me a piece of advice, then, I'm not going to get upset about it because she legitimately does know better. But even still, there might be, certain types of clients that we've tested and it's been proven that they just connect with my message better. So, I think it's important to consider who's giving you the advice. It's important to consider what type of advice it is actually. And, is it relevant to my audience also? So there's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, overall, like my best innovations have come from that negative feedback. But yeah, it just depends on the factors.
Can I jump in there real quick? I think that's a great point. Like, and there's a difference between just straight up haters who are just like giving you feedback, but they haven't done it themselves. I just disregard that completely. Like, I'll look into it and see if there's any truth that I can reflect on, but pretty much I'm putting it aside because they're just hating. But the second thing is, you get a lot of feedback. Like, I remember when I was getting ready to leave my full-time job, like the 6 months leading up to that, a lot of my friends and family, people that I care about and they care about me, gave me feedback, but it was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, this is kind of crazy. You should think twice about this. Why don't you just stay at your full-time job? It's safer.
Amen.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'm like, had I listened to them, I wouldn't be here today. So it's like, sometimes you need to quiet the voices and just feel what's good here and recognize that what you're doing is the right fucking thing and you need to go for it. But along the journey, you do need people that have been there, have done it, have proven themselves, and then get feedback from those people. I just had to mention that.
Yeah, good
and like
point.
if you take a look at, if we take it back so slightly to Brian's question with regards to the sales call per se, one of the best ways to do, when I had a team of like, I think it must have been around 14, 15 people across sales, across the entire funnel, one of the big things that we would do is review the calls.
Yeah.
Review the calls. It's powerful because if you review it with a fresh mindset, you're like, oh, actually, I didn't do X, Y, Z. I didn't really listen. I was just thinking, what about what I'm going to say next and responding. I wasn't actually asking the right questions, which were impactful questions, and getting answers. Asking questions is one thing, but actually getting answers is another, right? Because people will take you on a journey to wherever you want, wherever they want, right? It's about getting answers to those questions. And one way to really self-diagnose is through those coaching calls. And exactly what JP and Alex said, you've got to be careful around not necessarily who you, I suppose, listen to. That is one part of it, but it's also whose advice that you action. Because if you are taking advice from somebody who is not in the same game that you're playing, they're in the stadium, right? They're watching, they're a spectator. Are you taking advice from players or spectators? And that's the big thing, because the truth is there are a lot of spectators and very few players. And when you take advice from players, often there's a mutual level of respect because you're both playing the same game. You know it's tough, right? But it's when the unsolicited advice comes from the stands and then it clouds your mind. It's about getting quiet, right? As you said.
Especially, and also a point to that is, because I think a lot of us also preach, like, listen to your audience, like, take that audience feedback and make that, kind of translate that into your content, use that as fuel for your content. But we also have to be careful for that, because a lot of times, like, people come for who we are, like the authenticity that we bring. So if you listen to the audience too much, you could end up like compromising yourself, your vision, and really like compromise the reason why people came to you in the first place. Yeah. So I think it's also important to, take that advice. It's great, but also keep in mind, people are coming for you. People are coming for the way that you talk, you speak, what you review yourself, what, organically you have created. So don't lose yourself in that process.
Great point.
Question for you guys. I want to pay respect to some of the questions that we have. Daniel Joseph asks us, how long have you been in sales for each of us? So actually for me, I never worked in sales. One of the reasons it took me so long to become an entrepreneur is because that frightened me so much that I just delayed and postponed as long as I could. So about a year for me. What about you guys?
Dude, I've been in sales since I was selling nails from construction sites when I was like 11 years old. I would go to old construction sites. I don't know why. I have no clue why. And I would get the leftover nails in the dumpster, and then I would go door to door and try to sell them. So like I've always been, and then I did retail sales and I did B2B sales. So it's 10 plus years, but I've always been in some type, we're all in sales to some degree. You got to sell yourself. You got to sell your product or service. Like we're all in sales.
Same as Alex, man. Always been in sales. Like I remember selling double glazing. If you ever seen the show White Gold, you ever seen it?
No.
It's about these double glazing salesmen from the UK. Like I remember I did it. I was like 16. I know I must have been younger than that. I must have been like 13, 14, summer holiday. I saw this ad in the newspaper and I was like, damn, I need to go to this. Had the induction day, did one day selling. And I was like, yeah, I quit. Horrendous. But since then I've always been always been in a sales related arena. And also all of us, like Alex said, whether you are an engineer and you're asking for a promotion, you're selling yourself. Whether you are delivering a speech, whether you are speaking, whether you are delivering an internal presentation, you're selling your idea, you're selling something. And I think that's a powerful thing. I've had a lot of resistance with people when it comes to that, and people in non-specific sales roles who I've led, they were initially quite resistant to learning sales because they said, I don't want to do sales. I'm not extroverted. I'm not good at talking, all this sort of stuff, which is all just BS, right?
Well, there's that stigma in sales. That's why we have to say, how do we sell without selling? What if we just redefine the word selling as a positive thing where we help people, that we wouldn't say we're not selling.
We're serving,
right?
And John, how long for you?
So I remember it was like an Easter egg hunt. It was like, like one of those like family events, but there was like, it must have been like, I think it was like our entire church or something. I was super, super young, but I have like the photos to like go back and remember it. So it was this Easter egg hunt, and we started noticing that everybody was getting like quarters in their eggs, like there wasn't really candy because I guess they didn't want the kids like high on sugar or whatever. So it was all quarters. And so I remember they had like these sodas and like they had cups and they had ice. So I started I created like a little stand, and I was selling cups and ice and soda all kind of like put together in like a little package, And so I would charge 50 cents for it. And I like started getting a swarm of little kids younger than me. And then it's like, I realized like, oh, I got a little business here. And then like, it probably took like an hour before like some parents kind of like shut my business down. But, the point is that I was able to generate, I don't know, probably like $10 or something. I had enough kids where like, they didn't understand. The parents really didn't understand what was going on initially. I'm sure the kids started crying back and saying, "This guy stole all my money." But yeah, I feel like I've been doing it since the very beginning. Yeah, since childhood.
JP, I just got a call from Jordan Belfer. He wants his story back.
Does he have a story like that? Like the ice and the soda?
Yeah, there's definitely a lemonade story or something.
Okay. All right, sweet. Yeah, no, but it's legit. It's legit. I'll find the picture.
That cracks me up, John. So here's something I want to do. Oh wait, we got another question. Hit that back up there. What advice would you give to beginners like me to brand myself on LinkedIn?
That's my girl.
Learning and shy. Hi, Gata. You are awesome. We all love you.
Girl.
Don't follow any of Brian's content. Be everything. Be contrarian to what Brian does.
Yeah.
Brian's like sheep. You just follow.
Just interview yourself.
Yeah.
But what do you guys? Let's give her a serious answer. How do you give advice to people who that want to brand themselves on LinkedIn?
I honestly think, from my perspective, I know JP and Alex may think, actually, they may think something quite similar, but I think to gain momentum to the point where not posting becomes worse than actually posting because you've got that momentum there, it's about really creating a pattern interruption into your mindset as this is scary or this is, I don't have time for this, etc. Do a video challenge or do a text posting challenge, whether it's 10 days, 20 days, or 30 days, and start developing the ability to get the reps in. Because otherwise, one of the things that everybody says is, I want to put out quality content. But if you don't know, if you haven't done the quantity, you don't know what quality looks like. So I would start with a challenge of some form personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about reframing the mind. Like I love what, I heard it like in Simon Sinek. It was either one of his books or like one of his podcasts, something. But I love what he said. And it's, there was this interview with like this, I guess it was like, what is it? Like those skis that go down like a mountain, like Chicago boys should know. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like an Olympic level, like ski, thing. And they were talking to one of the Olympians, and and the interviewer said, are you nervous? This is the most important race of your life and this and that. And how are you feeling? You must be so nervous right now. And the Olympic skier said, no, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. And what they started to recognize, and I guess like Simon Sinek broke this down on like a scientific level, is the same type of feeling that we have when we're stressed is actually very similar in the brain to how we feel when we're excited about something. So as I was starting to like create the videos, Simon Sinek was a huge influence on me. And I started reframing my mind. I started telling myself, like, I'm nervous. And then I changed that to, no, I'm excited. Like those butterflies turned into like evil, corona bats, and it turned into like beautiful, cute butterflies, And as soon as I changed that framework and started believing that I was excited about what I was doing and the opportunity, as opposed to fearing it and being stressed about, whether it's going to be good or bad, once I made that switch, then it's like, man, it got so much easier. It became so much better.
Speaking of corona bats, Ravi, how has COVID-19 impacted the sales world?
You know what? I want to know three things. I want to know why your wife hasn't divorced you yet. I want to know if she sees a different version of Brian. We need Christina to hop on to these calls one day, man. So I want to see the real Brian Harman. What was I going to say? How has COVID-19 changed the world of selling? Well, you know what's interesting? So the business I was at previously, after COVID, we were specifically in the travel market. We were down, like when COVID hit, like 85 to 95% down in sales at one point. It was crazy. And I think one of the interesting things is, to take this question to somewhere different, is never has a salesperson or a sales leader had to deal with something of this magnitude or a global pandemic in any form, period. So there was no playbook for it. But imagine coming out of this, taking health risks aside, I'm talking purely from a sales perspective, having gone, come out the other side of this and having that ability to weather this type of storm, it's going to make you so resilient in the future. So one of the things I was doing inside of my team was they were getting prepared for the next day, going to war, basically getting prepared for everything that was thrown at us on a daily basis. And after a period of time, that feeling started to get normalized of that level of, oh God, this happened bad, this happened bad, this happened bad. It started to become a little bit of a, oh, this happened, cool, how are we going to fix it? Versus when things are good, you don't learn enough about yourself when things are good. You learn a lot about yourself and those around you when things are bad. And I think right now in the sales world, this word, lead with value, or that phrase rather, and empathy is being thrown around a lot, like a lot. It's kind of like this buzzword or phrase that is flowing around, right? But people are truly having to rethink the way that they approach selling in this climate. And I actually think it's a good thing, except many people are getting bashed, right, for selling in this climate. But the truth is, if you don't sell, companies don't last, and people then don't have jobs because revenue isn't in the bank. So I think, you know, a long-winded answer, but there's so many interesting learnings through this time as a salesperson, as a sales leader, and as a business owner.
Cool, yeah. And you brought up a good point, and I want to flip this around. We said we were going to talk about today how great leaders do sales, but I want to talk about now, what are the leadership skills that you learn from selling?
Ooh.
I'll go. I think one of the biggest ones is making it about the other person and not you. Like when you're in sales, the biggest mistake, I remember this is years ago when I was selling at a local flower shop. And the biggest mistake, like I'm now thinking of this to the question earlier, the biggest mistake I made was I would go into these shops, these other businesses, and try to get them to buy flowers, right, from all across the world. And I would go in there and it was just about me. It was just like, hey, here's what we got. And like, what do you usually buy? And this is what we have. This is what we offer, versus putting everything that I'm doing aside. And this is what I do now. And literally just making it about them. Like, what are you guys trying to accomplish here? What's the brand? Where are you trying to go? Where do you see the business in a couple of years? What's most important to you? You know, like those that like figure out how they're evaluating the people they work with. Those are the most important things in sales. And if you flip that to leadership, it's the same exact thing. When you start leading somebody or a team, you have to understand, where do they want to go? Why do they want to go there? What's important to them? What drives them? What is their why or their purpose? And how can I help them sort of get there? And it's really the exact same thing in sales or leadership. And I think you got to start there with pretty much everything.
Ravi, John?
Go on, JP, you go. Go on. I feel like I hogged the mic for 4 minutes last time. So go on, you go.
No, it very, very similar to Alex. You know, a lot of it was learning how to get out of my own way. You know, like, you know, whatever the case is, a lot of times we're, you know, it's almost like, you know, it's like if you go on a date, you know, like you get a Tinder profile and you do all the research and you finally get to your first date. And now you sit at the table and it's like, you automatically, in order to remove all the awkward, you just start selling yourself. You start talking about the menu, you start talking about the restaurant, you start talking about the weather. Slowly and slowly and slowly, you're creating less and less interest, so that by the time the appetizer hits the table, like she's already gone to the bathroom and left through the back door, you know? So I think a lot of it is, you know, getting out of your own way. Like Alex said, you know, asking the right kinds of questions and identifying, you know, what do they really need? What do they really want? And if you can do that, not only does it take a ton of the pressure off of you to say all the right things, but in the process, like, you're learning a lot of the details so that you can cater a message to what they actually want to hear also. So yeah, I think a lot of it is get out of your own way. We have a habit of over-talking, overselling, when the product should kind of sell itself, and them identifying the biggest challenges that they have, their pain points, will help create a path for us to walk on.
Yeah.
I love that. And it, you know, to think about what Alex mentioned and JP, the interesting thing is when you have a sales call, what you realize, as both of them have said, is it's not about you, it's them, right? But a lot of the time, salespeople will care about their number, impressing their leader, their commission, their paycheck. And as a result, they will operate from a place of lack, or operate from a place of wanting to get the call done and want to rush towards the close very quick because they just want to move on to the next. They just want to close. Now, what's interesting is it's not about what you want. It's about taking the client on a journey to help them achieve what they want. And it's the same in leadership. When you have somebody, you may think that they're going to be the next VP of sales or the next CEO or whatever it might be, but they may want something completely different from the working relationship. They may want to be their own business owner. And as a result, they want to be here 3 years and squeeze everything they possibly can. But if you can support them on that, you're going to get a way better individual because you're aligned in terms of your vision and also your values and what you both want to achieve out of the relationship, because you've not said, no, I see you as a VP or as a CEO of this company. You say, no, I'm here to help and support this journey, this individual on their journey, rather, of becoming the best version of what they want for them, not what you want for them.
Good advice or bad advice, I'm not sure. But I learned this through like working out. And, you know, I learned this just like through life and through creating videos on LinkedIn. But now it's also translating into sales. It's like I act like that is the only sales call I'm going to have today. That is the only thing that I have to accomplish today. You know, I might have 5 calls right after, but I put absolutely everything into that moment. I really live in that moment, right? And I say to myself, this is the only thing that matters right now, right? And I mean, it's true, right? But if you really treat it like this is the only sales call I'm going to have today, you know, and you do that with every single one of them, I think people, you know, also recognize that. They can see, okay, he's really giving it all with this. And hopefully they, you know, when somebody can feel like that personalized attention, feel like, you know, it's about them, it's about that moment, I think it does make a difference. So yeah, put absolutely everything into that. Don't think about the other 4 calls you have to do that day, because just the stress of that will take something away, because it's like, again, you're just trying to move to the next one, right? But if you really make the person feel like you're putting everything into it, and you in your own mind treat it like it's the only thing, then I think that, at least for me, that's made a difference.
I like that, John. Thank you. And I think too, we've all been on the other side of a sales call, and we don't want to be bullshitted. We're not stupid. Everyone, no matter who they are, they can see right through any nonsense. For that reason, I think it's really important. What we do outside of sales matters. On LinkedIn, on other platforms in particular, you don't know where someone's going to get their first impression of you. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of videos that we've put up. We comment on other things. One off-color remark can really give someone a bad taste about you and your character. So I wonder, for you guys, outside of sales, what do you do that helps you be better at sales?
Crickets.
I know.
I don't do anything but post LinkedIn content. Alex, I'll let you have this one whilst I think of my response.
Guys, I don't even know. Outside of sales, do I do that makes me better at sales? I think every interaction with the human is planning and getting better at sales. Like JP said, I always say the biggest gift that you can give somebody is to be present. Get it? Yeah.
Present.
That would have came in handy, you know? Come on, Brian.
But
I don't know, man. Just to me, like, this is going to seem very basic, but it's just like, I fucking prepare for sales by being a good human being to other people. When I engage with somebody that I don't know for the first time, I actually try to get to know them, because I want to get to know people, because it's not about me and me telling my story and what I'm doing today. I try to ask good questions. Oh, nice. What are you doing? What are you doing that for? What's the plan with that? Like, so it's part of that. And what JP said, it's part of just being in the moment with somebody. It's really hard to do, and I'm not great at it all the time. But it's easy to pull out your phone and be distracted and have something else on your mind and thinking about the next call and all this other stuff. But to put that aside and say, I'm just going to give this person my time, I think is extremely invaluable. So being a good human, asking good questions and caring about what they're interested in, even if you're not interested in, just because you care enough to ask, and then being present is the best practice for me.
I think that covers the question. Thank you, Alex.
I do. I wanted to chime in though, because like I want to share something, and I hope it helps. You know, this is super cheesy, and again, like I don't know if it's great advice, but I'll be honest. Like when you're so entrenched in your own product, a lot of times you can take it for granted. You know, because like you know the product so well, sometimes it does kind of like lose its luster. So what I'll do is like I'll go on YouTube and I'll watch like X Factor, American Idol, you know, when they hit that golden button and the person's cheering and, you know, the whole audience gets up on their feet, or, you know, like just like a winning touchdown and everybody's just rejoicing. And like, I envision my client having that response when they gain like whatever my program is going to do for them. It's like them winning the race or getting the championship or whatever it is. And I try to get excited for that person, like I get excited for the team, like I get excited for the participant. You know, you're not always going to be inspired by what you're selling. But if you get inspired by the potential end result for that person, it does kind of like wake you up. It uplifts you. So I do use that a lot. I just go on YouTube, type something motivational, boom, start watching it. And then it's like it sparks something in me because we're not always going to be excited about what we're selling.
Dude, Brian's going to hate this because he's going to be like, I've got to finish up. Travis told me I've only got 4 minutes left. But studying other individuals who are very powerful at communication, because for me, speaking is sales and communication is sales and sales is communication. And if you take a look, and Brian and I have spoken about this, the best comedians of all time, you can really see exactly what JP said, how they get the audience in a form of momentum, how they resonate with them, how they create relatable content, how they speak in a conversational tone, like all of these different things. It's super powerful. You can study almost anything, any interaction, good interaction, and you can be like, oh, wow, you could take a little piece from that and take it into the world that you're in. You know, I like watching all types of content from people outside of the sales arena, and it teaches me about selling, teaches you about selling. So Kelsey says, love what you do. Rav is the best out of all you four. Oh, okay.
That's not what it is.
Oh, Kelsey, I'm sorry. I thought that's what you said. What are you doing? Yes, love it, Kelsey. Love it.
Thanks for your contribution input always, Ravi. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
About that stuff. Oh, that's right. We are. We're talking about humor next week. So good.
Are we talking about is humor next week?
Good segue, brother.
Oh, it's good that Brian's not hosting that one.
Close it out, Brian.
All right, cool. So we covered some cool conversations today. Thank you, guys. I think I took down some notes. I said, don't sell, just serve. Be valuable. Solve problems. Practice the empathy and lead the way. Thank you, guys. This is my host saying good night. I'll see you on the LinkedIn. Any last comments?
We love you, Brian.
I love you too.
That was the crowd. That's why I envisage the crowd thinking right now. Like, we love you, Brian. That's the crowd.
What a way to go out.
Yeah.
What an anticlimax.
I know.
Brian, you need to tell us a joke or something. This is awkward. You got 2 minutes.
I got
tell
2
us a
minutes?
joke.
It's a good leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good leadership joke.
Tell us a good leadership joke. And don't say, Ravi. Be serious. You got to tell real.
I was just going to say, did you guys ever hear about that leader called Ravi?
Yeah, I knew that's what you were going to say. Look at him. Now he's got nothing. Like, tell us a joke, Brian. Tell us a joke.
Oh, yeah, no, I got nothing, guys.
Yeah.
The thing I was thinking about just now is like when we had the leadership conversation last week, Ravi hosted, and then we had the sales conversation this week. I hosted.
Yeah,
we're getting our topics backwards.
Well, different perspectives, Bri Dog?
Yeah, lots to think about. Think about.
So next week, who's hosting next week, ladies and gents? Is it Abs? Is it Abs or ABS? What do you prefer?
I don't know. ABS, I guess.
I mean, after that Terminator video, I'm sure Abs would be a fitting nickname anyway, huh?
It's too on the nose. It's too on the nose. Yeah.
Hey.
It's more subtle if you spell it.
Yeah. Right.
ABS. Sounds like an alarm system.
The new ABS 4000.
Yeah.
If you're worried about Ravi getting into your place, worry no more.
Why'd you pick me? Why'd you pick me?
Get away from the door. Get away from the door.
Rebecca says, jumping in late. We'll rewatch now. Yes, Rebecca. Rollis. Bromance. Oh yeah, man. We should try and push Netflix to give us our own show. You know, like, what's that show? Oh, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. We need our own version.
People are going to get those two confused. They're not going to know which one's which. Like, they have a guy with long hair. They got a guy that looks exactly like you do. You know, Alex has the right size shirt on. And, you know, Brian, there's always, like, the one straight guy that has, like, completely doesn't understand the culture at all. So, yeah.
We need to push.
We'd be perfect for it. We'll confuse them, though. So, not sure.
Good. There's a spoof right here.
We could have made a TV show out of us trying to create the TV show. Because I thought it was funny how we spent nobody knows this, but we spent the 10 weeks trying to come up with a show just to do an improv show.
No kidding.
None of the stuff that we talked about over the previous 10 weeks.
Nothing. Literally. There could have been, it would have been the worst show in the world, but yeah, 10 weeks we spent and we got to this. I mean,
I love it.
Bad.
I thought it was valuable. It was valuable for me. I love you guys. Thank you.
You guys too. Thank you.
Peace.
Let's go.
Thank you guys so much for joining episode 2 of Lead, Laugh, Love. We appreciate your support from the start. Do all of these subscribe things, follow all these awesome guys, and go ahead and follow our channel on YouTube as well. We are expanding beyond LinkedIn and into other channels now, but we would love for you to be a part of our world. So thank you so much for joining us for episode 2. We'll see you same time next week. Take care.